Welcome to Retail Profit. I'm Doug Stevens, and today I've got the pleasure of being joined by a very special guest today, Guy Kawasaki, former chief evangelist at Apple, an Apple fellow, co-founder of the online magazine rack Alltop, and founding partner at Garage Technology, author of 10 books. Is it 10 books, Guy?
10 books.
10 books. A lot of people haven't read 10 books, Guy, and you've written 10, including the international bestseller, Art of the Start, and husband and father of 4 kids, yeah?
Yes.
And a semi-pro hockey player, I understand.
I don't know about that part. You were doing fine until then.
No, but hang on a second. You actually play, you said 5 days a week?
Yes, I just got off the ice 1 hour and a half ago.
That's unbelievable. I mean, there are semi-pro guys, I think, that don't play 5 days a week.
Well, maybe they don't need to practice like I do.
How did you get into hockey? How does a guy from Palo
Hawaii.
Alto, California, get involved in hockey?
It's even worse. I'm from Hawaii. I took my kids to a Sharks game for a birthday party, and they loved it so much, and they wanted to take it up, so I decided to take it up too, and that was 8 years ago. So I started playing hockey at 48, having never skated in my life. And to start skating at 48 is a little late, to put it mildly.
Yeah, the body doesn't always do what we tell it to do, does it?
Neither does the mind. But
That's great, though. You enjoy it.
I enjoy it tremendously.
That's fantastic. I don't know if you're aware of that. Of this, but it makes you, I think it actually entitles you to dual citizenship in Canada. The fact that you, I think all you have to do is show your skates at the border and we give you dual citizenship.
Well, actually, I should have dual citizenship because I have a Canadian mind in a Hawaiian body, so divided that way. So I should have put that on my Nexus card.
Yeah.
I can get it even faster.
I'm telling you, it would. Yeah, you don't even have to stop at the border, I don't think. So one last hockey question, and then we'll get down to business. Are you a shooter, a skater, or an enforcer?
A shooter.
Are you?
But I'm a shooter. I didn't say I'm a scorer. There's a difference.
That's all right. You shoot enough times, you score eventually, right?
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
Like, even a blind bear can find honey every once in a while.
So, okay. We're here, obviously, to talk about Guy's latest book, Enchantment, and I actually saw Guy speak at an Art of Marketing conference recently where he was sort of introducing this whole idea of enchantment. And I thought it was fascinating from the standpoint of that we've been talking in the retail category for years now about customer engagement. Mm-hmm. And I felt when I listened to you that what you were proposing is that it's time to move beyond engagement.
Yes.
And that this was becoming almost a trite kind of idea, and so I found it compelling, and I wanted to get your thoughts today around this whole idea of how retailers can do a better job of enchanting their customers. So tell me, first of all, this book is a bit of a departure from things that you've written in the past. And tell me, what was the inspiration for Enchantment?
Royalty.
Well, honesty, I think, is one of the traits of the enchanting.
It makes me trustworthy.
That's right. Full disclosure.
Yeah, it was royalty, and I wanted to help people change the world by becoming more persuasive and influential. And your specific market, I think that a retail environment is potentially one of the highest potential for enchantment because you have face-to-face contact. I can tell you how to be enchanting with Twitter and Facebook, no question. But face-to-face in store where you truly have the person's mind, body, and attention, that is a special, special time. Mm-hmm. And not that I'm there anymore, and not that I deserve any credit for their success, but I think the Apple Store is a very good example that, you walk in that store and there's not a lot of crap all over the place. There's not even a cash register, really. There's not a lot of paper. And you have people who are uniformly pleasant and very knowledgeable about the product.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to the Genius Bar, and that goes up, another 10, right, for the Genius people who are helping with tech support and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recently in London, and I went to the Covent Garden Apple Store, which is closer to a museum than a store, and it's the most enchanting store I've probably been in. Although I have to say, Harrods is right up there too.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, absolutely. I think I think I saw something on Twitter. You tweeted out was it photographs from the
Apple Store?
Yeah, from the Apple
Yes.
Store in London. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk a lot more about Apple because I think you raise a good point. I think they've sort of been the benchmark for retail experience in many ways, which is ironic when you think about it because we've always looked at tech as being sort of a lot of people have accused technology of being the disconnector.
Yes.
And oddly enough, you have fundamentally, although you would probably argue Apple's not a tech company, but they supersede tech. But
yes.
But here they are creating incredible retail experiences. So how does first of all the concept of enchantment, we talked about it going beyond engagement. In your mind, how does it supersede engagement?
Well, because engagement implies that you do the simple things, that you merely answer email, or you answer your Facebook wall questions, or you answer your tweets and stuff. But engagement, you might feel engaged if somebody asks you a question and you say yes or no and provide the answer. But enchantment is a higher level. Enchantment is truly you want to delight people. And I don't think that most people are trying to delight their customers. They might want to serve them, they might want to keep them happy, but delight. And think of Apple compared to most computer companies. Most computer companies want you to buy a computer so they give you a discount, coupon, they bludgeon you, they sell to you, they promote to you, they do whatever. Apple enchants you so you buy a Macintosh, then you buy an iPhone, then you buy an iPod, then you buy an iPad. You're using iTunes, you're using iBooks. Next thing you know, you're sleeping over at the store so you can be the first person in Toronto to have an iPad too.
Yeah.
That's enchantment. That's far beyond engagement. The irony with Apple is that Apple is not a particularly social media engaging company. It's not like Steve Jobs is on Twitter and he has 10 million followers. I don't know of an employee on Twitter who identifies himself or herself as an Apple employee. Have you ever heard of an Apple employee blog? No. I mean, Apple is the antisocial social media company.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that isn't in many ways because they really. I mean, if you're on Twitter, to an extent, you're acknowledging that you're part of someone else's culture. Do you know what I mean? You're part of Twitter's culture, or you're part of Facebook's culture. And I think Apple's been very astute in defending their own culture, creating their own, building the moat around their own culture. So perhaps that has something to do with that. That they don't play in other people's sandboxes, so to speak.
Either that or they're paranoid.
Well, there's that too, right? I mean, Steve is very guarded about what gets communicated.
It's important to separate the Apple Store from Apple Corporate. And for many people, Apple Store equals Apple. People like me, Apple equals Apple Cupertino and Steve and his people. But I think for most of the world, they walk into a store, whether it's in Toronto or London or Palo Alto, and they see basically enchanting kind of people who are likable and trustworthy, fully knowledgeable. Life is good. That's Apple to them. Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna ask you this question later, but seeing as we're on Apple, I'll ask you now. And I think the same thing applies to Starbucks as well. Starbucks had very, very engaging culture, very unique. It used to be that when you walked into a meeting at work and you had the Starbucks cup, it was a big thing, because there was a scarcity, there was a rarity about Starbucks, and the same sort of scarcity that you find with Apple stores. They aren't on every corner. They're not in every shopping mall, right? Now Apple's talking about adding more stores. Does that scare you at all for them?
Well, what would scare me is if they would have to lower their standards for their employees. But I don't know enough about retail to tell you if that's true or not. I mean, certainly Starbucks has way more stores than Apple.
Yeah.
Right? And although an Apple store must take 50 to 60 employees minimum, whereas a Starbucks store can't be that high, right?
I doubt it is, yeah. And you know, I guess they're such unique people that they're looking for, you know. You just wonder how deep the talent pool is out there.
Listen, if Walmart can find 1 million employees, I'm sure Apple can find 100,000. So I wouldn't worry about that.
I wish them luck. Let me transition over here. The first pillar in the book that you talk about of Enchantment is likability.
Yes.
And I found that interesting because John Gersma, who wrote the book Spend Shift, recently did a whole bunch of research. He went out and did a whole bunch of kind of post-recession research with consumers and said, what are the things that are most important to you? And I think one of the highest ranking metrics that they came across was that consumers wanted to deal with brands that were likable. They said they'd never seen a rise in a metric the way they did likability. So the question I have, Guy, is let's assume you're starting with a company that frankly isn't that likable. Yeah. How does a company become likable, and is it something that you can genuinely fabricate or grow?
Step one would be to buy a copy of Enchantment for every employee.
Wait a minute, Guy. I got to show the cover every time you. There we go.
So listen. First of all, one has to genuinely want to become more likable. Okay. So I'm not talking about putting lipstick on a pig. That's a waste of lipstick, and it annoys the pig. So, I don't know if it has to be at the CEO level, but certainly at the highest level. This can't be one of these things where the CEO went to a conference and read a book or saw a speech and came back and said, all right, today we're going to be enchanting. I mean, that might be okay from the author's standpoint, but that truly isn't going to work. There needs to be something deeper in, the core, the soul of the executives that want to be likable. So I'm telling you that, it has to start from the core, that it's not just this, last year we tried total quality management, and before that we tried Deming, and before that we tried, the Six Sigma, and so let's try Enchantment.
Right.
I don't think any of those would work if you truly don't believe in that. And then it takes the understanding that enchantment is a process. It is not a event. So it's not like you say, all right, from now on we're going to be enchanting. We're going to be likable. It probably will take years. I mean, if you took an extreme example, let's take BP. Could BP turn into a likable enchanting company? The answer to that is yes, but it will take a long time. I mean, it has to dig itself out of a hole, right?
Yeah.
It could. Now, it's not because it has some snappy little advertising campaign that shows BP logo in green with, forestation and whatever, and beautiful seashore and, all this kind of stuff, stock photos. It's going to be because fundamentally it's owned up to what it did. It's going to repair and replace and do all that kind of stuff. And I think the best case for BP is for people to say, you know what? At least they tried. At least it was more than a PR ploy. It was more than a clever ad campaign. They really tried. Arguably, they should spend no money on advertising and promotion of their efforts. They should pour all that money strictly into the efforts and let the efforts become visible as people understand what they did.
So they've got to win back trust.
Yes.